We're back for the final episode, according to me. We'll see if that changes or not, according to Dion here of Snap Tackle Pod and Mick Schaefer of KSHB 41 in a festive mood here as we approach Christmas. And Dion Clisso in just a commercial mood, just promoting his products and his website and all about the cash, aren't you? All about the money.
Yes,
capitalism.
I do in front of our tree, but it's not. It's up, but it's not decorated yet. We're going to decorate this weekend.
Okay.
We got a lot of stuff done last weekend, but we had talks of maybe doing it during the week. But there's about an hour a night that you can do some stuff.
When I get told we're going to decorate the tree, I launch my body through a window and start running through fences, through neighborhood yards. I just don't want to do it. So
I got the tree up. I got the tree up. We switched last year from always a real tree.
Oh wow!
Yes, and we do 9-foot Fraser firs. And when we first got together and got the house and got married, I think the cheapest we ever got one year was Home Depot for like a 9-foot Fraser fir for like $65.
Yeah.
Then they were generally running 100, 110. It was like 120. It was like 130.
Yeah.
And then it got to be like 230. And then last year you couldn't find anything that was big. So we did the Balsam Hill, bit the bullet on the Balsam Hill, and bought a nice Balsam Hill one that we did the math on that would pay for itself in the span of 4 or 5 years. So it's nice.
We got a nice plastic one. I think we've had for 20 years.
Yeah. So
we have another plastic one over there, and another one in the basement.
Oh no, we've got multiples. We've had multiple little smaller artificial ones. My son's had one in his room pretty much since he was, little. He always wanted one. So yeah, we're going to finish up this weekend. All we have is a basketball game, a rec basketball game on Saturday, and the Chiefs game on Sunday. And as of right now, unless you ask me to do sound off, I have no responsibility in terms of watching the Chiefs game. I can just watch.
Do sound off. I've got nothing reminder. I've got nobody.
So no, it's if you can't tell, I haven't shaved since Wednesday, which was the Simone Awards.
Yeah.
I will probably shave today. I just taking the time off. I
can't tell. You look clean shaven.
It's because it comes in gray. So when it's like this, you can't really tell on a Zoom call.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad. But no, you give me a couple more days and I'll start looking like Old Man of the Sea, which is an Ernest Hemingway reference. Kids, go look it up if you haven't read any Hemingway. Your teachers in school are not doing you justice. But no, season has come to an end. We recorded our final radio show yesterday. That's up on the site. We got great interviews with Logan Minnick and Andy Learman, who won their championships. We kind of reviewed with our guys and talked with Mike DePasquale, who kind of wrapped up his season as well. Saw him out at the Simone Awards. So no, the season has officially wrapped. The awards are handed out. And we are done. And Wednesday we were at the Simone Awards at Blue Valley Southwest. Let's
get to that eventually here. Let's rewind back to Friday and Saturday. We'll start first in Class 6 because Missouri finished up their seasons this week. And I don't know how we can't start with this Class 6 game, Dion. First of all, it's Liberty North winning its first ever state title convincingly over what has become the new power in Missouri, CBC. But that game was all Liberty North. And then it got ugly, right? And then it was all about personal fouls. And then with 3 minutes and some change on the clock, CBC, I guess, right, decides to just...
The word I heard is that he said he wanted to end it.
Who's that?
The CBC coach said they wanted to end it after his team got 3 personal fouls in the span of 5 plays. And then they kind of said they were going to go on. And then the word I've heard officially is that Misha stepped in when they saw multiple players and coaches from CBC lurching out onto the field. And so they figured they couldn't, that was probably best because CBC wasn't in control of themselves. And they kept them each on the sidelines. They didn't do a handshake line. Contrary to what was written by some idiot in St. Louis who has a website. They weren't held, apart. Like Liberty North didn't turn their back on CBC after the game. That's what they were told to do by Misha. Both teams turned, yes, and got their
trophies. Yeah,
got their trophies facing their fans. So what sucks is that Liberty North played a great football game, and this is what a lot of people remember. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Personally, I think the coach of CBC ought to lose his job, but he's the AD, so I doubt that's happening. I think it's one of the worst things I've ever seen in high school football. To basically we lost our cool because we were getting beat. A team that has beaten several people or multiple teams every year very badly, leaving their starters in as long as they wanted to, and didn't like the physicality that Lisa or Liberty North brought because they were hitting them hard. And I don't know, you watch Liberty North, they got some guys who hit hard. Rockhurst hits hard.
Well, and you could tell that the officials had told the guys earlier in the game that, hey, we're going to put up with no more of this because Jayshon Ross got ejected for an unnecessary roughness type hit.
Yeah.
And then another CBC guy got ejected basically for just kind of mouthing off at that point. They had had enough.
Before
so
the penalties tell the story here. Liberty North was penalized 5 times for 55 yards, and that includes the 15-yard penalty on Jay Ross. And, I've had multiple coaches that are outside of both those programs tell me it's kind of a borderline call, but maybe they felt like it was too rough. I mean, and from what I've heard,
I think in any other game that doesn't qualify as an ejection at all in high school football. But my guess is that, and I watched the game, and there was some extra stuff throughout the game from both teams. And my guess is that, like, maybe at halftime they said, "Look, this is no tolerance policy here. Any more personal fouls you're out." That's my guess of what happened, because it looks like that's what happened.
So essentially, what happened is he got ejected, and then Liberty North got the ball back, and they're running the ball. They're up 31-7. They run a play action, and Keelan Smith springs wide open because they had 11 and freaking basically standing on the line trying to stop the run, and they hit the touchdown. And at that point, CBC decides, well, we're getting beat, and they lose their mind. They're mad, I guess, because they got scored on.
They got a guy ejected on the PAT.
And then they got the quarterback they'd gotten hurt, so they had the second string quarterback in, and I don't know if that kid was really ready to be in that game, so he's just standing back there holding the ball. Well, update: Liberty North has a good defense. They're going to come tackle the quarterback, and he got hit. He got taken out a couple times, so there was a couple more personal fouls, and that's when things got out of hand. I find it really sad that an adult male stands up in front of people at a press conference and says, "I was worried about the safety of my kids." What essentially what he is saying is, I can't control my own kids. And, they had personal fouls last year in the state championship game against Lee Summit North. And from what I've talked to people, that, and there's a lot of people saying Lewis don't like CBC. They win, so that's part of it. There's not a lot of crime for some of them, but to me, it's a stain. It's a stain on the state championships, and takes away from what we should be talking about: Liberty North's fantastic year, and the game they had, and the season they played, and the beating the teams that they beat along the way, like a Rockhurst and Oak Park, teams like that. And they are the state champions. They were the best team in the state, and that's the conversation that needs to happen.
Well, let's talk about it then. Bringing a state title back to Kansas City in Missouri's big class for the first time since 2020.
Yeah, Ray Peck.
But I feel like this was maybe the best big class team we've seen from Kansas City. Gosh, maybe the last 10 years, maybe. Liberty North, I mean, they checked all the boxes. The
last one to win it before them was Blue Spring South in 2015. That was a pretty good team. They were undefeated. But that's when the little kind of the run started for CBC. DeSmet stuck in there one time. And Ray Peck beat DeSmet 3 years ago, and beat them 20-0, and they were really never a part of that game. But that's I think things are cyclical. And I think that the St. Louis schools, or CBC and DeSmet specifically, kind of up their level of player in the last 8-9 years. And so that they kind of took a step forward. But I'll tell you right now, in Kansas City in Class 6, it's as good as it's been in a long time, because, we can look back at the day when it was, Blue Spring South, and Rockhurst. And even if you want to go back,
like with Rockhurst and Lee Summit North and Liberty North.
Yeah. And then, now, but Liberty's not a bad team. Lee Summit West is a good team. I mean, Oak Park had a good run this year. I mean, we're 5, 6, 7 deep in Class 6 in Missouri on the Kansas side, or on the Missouri side in Kansas City. And I don't know in St. Louis, outside of CBC, how deep they are, and really the rest of the state. So I think we're in a good spot going forward, because, I mean, a lot of these teams are still going to be good. You've got some teams that are young and going to be good. Like Liberty is still pretty young. Blue Springs South is a young team. You know, they did last year. Blue Springs was a young team. You know, some of those traditional teams. Ray Peck has always got players. So it's, you know, it'll be interesting because now they're going back to more one bigger conference. So they'll beat up on each other even more, you know, with those schools being in mostly in two leagues, but you know, they have them there. So it'll be interesting to see because they're going to play each other a lot more, which that's part of the reason I think why we didn't win conference title or state titles there for a while between like 16 and 20 is because we had some teams that got out of Kansas City that just were beat to crap by the time they got to the state championship game. Just, I mean, you know, playing with 2s and 3s because they've just the attrition of getting out of Kansas City was so tough.
Yeah, I remember so many of those years, the Rockers, Blue Springs South years, it was that the championship game was like in the semifinals, basically.
Or quarterfinals.
Quarterfinals. That's what it basically was this year, right? With Rockers and Liberty North, that 1-point game. And then Lee Summit North and raised their hand and said, you know what? Hey, we were right there with Rockers as well. So it felt like, for the first time in a while, it was tilted right to the west side of the state in Missouri's big class.
No, it was, and I think, you know, for Liberty North, you know, they were there 2 years ago, and then lost in the semifinals last year to CBC. It's tougher to get over that hump sometimes than people think. Were they good enough to win it 2 years ago? I think they were. I think they were good enough to win it last year. You know, and Lee Summit North was good enough to win it last year, and I think it's just tough to get over that hump. But about, I don't know, midway through the second quarter, they looked like they'd gotten over that hump. I mean, they gave up a touchdown on their first drive, but then they really just methodically, they ran the ball, they threw the ball. And defensively, they were at the point of contact. They were, you know, there were no soft tackles. There's, you know, guys running through the ball, that kind of thing. Very, very deliberate in their fact of wanting to shut down the McClellan kid who's going to Ohio State for them. They showed some zone on him and kind of double bracketed him, and he was never really a factor in the game. I mean, he caught some balls because he's going to catch some balls, but they didn't. You know, he's a guy who can wreck a game from the wide receiver position, and they did not allow him to do it. And it says a lot about the defense and also offensively. You know, every phase of the game, they kicked a 52-yard field goal, set the state record. You know, and Andy Lerman had a real funny thing to say. He goes, we're lucky one of their coaches kicked at K-State, and so he goes, we actually have a guy who can coach kicking, you know, and he goes, you know, we don't even think about it. And I just ask him, where's the line? And he goes,
well, wasn't there a kid last year that went to Mizzou?
Blake Craig. Yeah. And so and Blue Renfro, this year's kicker, he goes, I just ask him, you know, where's the line today based on the win and, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, tell me where we're good at. And so he said, oh, we're good they had a fourth down. He goes, we're good from here. And he goes out and he kicks it. And then somebody comes up to me and tells me, that was a state record. He goes, and part of me says, if I'd have known where, you know, really thought about where it was, I probably wouldn't have kicked it.
Yeah.
Let him kick it. He goes, but he kicked it. It was good. And so
that's great.
Yeah. So I mean, all phases of their game, they had a block punt. Jay Ross blocked a punt. They had a pick six to Cole Young, not our Cole Young, but very much more athletically talented. Cole Young.
Pick sixes our Cole Young has had in his life.
Yeah. This Cole Young's had a few. He's had a great year for Liberty North. Outstanding baseball player for Liberty North. Played safety for them this year, and so they did it all. I mean, special teams scored, defense scored, special teams had a block kick. I mean, it's an offense scored. You know, so they won that game in every single phase.
That's awesome. Congratulations to the Eagles in their first state championship in football. Class 4, Kearney. Just, I mean, what do we say about that dominating game all over Hillsboro, winning? What number is that for them? Do you know?
That's 5.
That's their 5th.
Yep. Mark Thomas had 2 back-to-back, 2002, 2003. Greg Jones had 2009 and 2015, and now Logan Manick has 2023. And you know, that game was really fun. Early on, it was back and forth. It was like whoever had the ball was scoring. Now, Hillsboro came out and drove the ball all the way down to like the 3-yard line, and Kearney threw up a goal line stand and stopped him, and then went down and scored. And then they had a pretty good halftime lead because they had like a 2 or 3 score halftime lead because they turned them over one time, and then they also got another stop at the goal line later in the game. But Kearney scored every time he touched the ball, and it was really they were running the ball, they were throwing it, whatever they wanted to do, they could do it. I will say this: Hillsboro is a good team. That's a good football team. They beat Lutheran North. What they have is the same problem that most everyone who's gotten beaten pretty badly by Kearney. in the last 3 weeks, because they have 3-4 weeks, because they've rolled the playoffs, is a lot of their best players go both ways. Kearney is, not doesn't have anybody really going both ways. And
It's a huge advantage,
yeah, it's
especially
a
at
huge
that
advantage.
level. At
And
class 4 to be able to do that.
they, our Cole Young covered them against Grandview, late in the season. And he said he came away from it. He's like, they won by 30. They just pulled away as the game went on from Grandview. And Grandview was a pretty solid team. He's like, but he goes, I just don't know. I don't see like stars anywhere like that. And we were talking after they got done. He goes, I think I figured out what my problem was. He goes, they're good at every position. So nothing stands. Every phase of the game, they were talented and had good players.
And you really do. You just wear teams down.
Yeah. And
Mill Valley does that on the Kansas side. The same deal. Because even in class 5A and 6A in Kansas, you have a lot of teams that they'll just, really good athletes and holes that, and I get the temptation. They'll put guys there, in 5 or 6 guys playing both ways, but it matters when you play a really good team who doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And you see that in the second halves and the fourth quarters.
Their quarterback had a great game, and Cameron
Evans had a great year too.
Yeah. Rooney, and then Manny Linthicum, the receiver, had 5 different people scored touchdowns. Yeah, 5 different people scored touchdowns at one point, because it's an easy thing. I don't live tweet games, but I got started on that one, and it was scoring all the time, so I was doing it. and so at one point I did the Oprah tweet: you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, you get a touchdown, because Emmons had 4, Rooney threw for 4. I think.
Well, they had to keep scoring. It was a but it's only a 20-point game.
Yeah, no, they had to keep scoring. There was no doubt.
Hillsborough could put up points too.
Yeah, Hillsborough was putting up points, and they had to score. So, it was fantastic. I told Coach Minnick this. I was really impressed with his team all season long, and especially in their playoff run. They hardly had any penalties, and they turned people over. And he said the funny thing about it was going into either the Jeff City or going to the Nevada game, they were -5 on turnovers, because early in the season, offensively, because Rooney was hurt and they had different players playing, and they were still trying to figure out who they were. He goes, they turned the ball over a ton, and they had 5 turnovers in the state championship game to finish +5 on the turnovers. He goes, but that was just, and their turnovers were, not like somebody just dropped the ball on a handoff or, that kind of stuff. They forced those turnovers on Hillsborough. They had some interceptions that were, guys under pressure throws the ball and like that. And like I said, Hillsborough's a good team. Their first touchdown, dude broke up the middle. I'm like, he's like 6'2", 200 tailback, just breaking up the middle. And no, they, and everybody I talked to said that it was Hillsborough's first state championship. You don't want to say they were happy to be there as fans, but the guy who covered the game for me was, in the break, you're in the stands, you're going to get a hot dog or whatever like that. And he said, was talking to some Hillsborough people who were just enjoying being in the moment of the game. And I'm really excited, and they'll be good next year. So I wouldn't be stunned to see them back next year. But no, Kearney, pretty dominant in playoffs. It's tough to go through big class 4, 5, or 6 and be as dominant as they were.
Missouri Class 1, Marionville shuts out North Platte. The run for North Platte comes to an end. I wasn't able to see that game. What happened in that one, Dion?
Marionville's been ranked number 1 all season long, and they looked a lot like North Platte, but I think they're just a little bit bigger. And I think they controlled the line of scrimmage a little bit better. But North Platte has nothing to hang their head on. 2 years ago they were winless. These seniors, freshman, sophomore year, didn't win a game.
Wow.
So they've come a long way in a short amount of time. Coach Jared Quigley and his staff, former Staley standout Jared Quigley, was on the state championship team in 2011. He did a great job. Their staff did a great job. And we're talking Class 1 football in Missouri. We're talking about like him and 3 other guys. So that's what we're talking about, staff, and if you've got 40, 50 players,
right,
that's tough to do. And they had good numbers at North Platte. So came up short. But getting there is a huge thing. The first time they've been back since when they won it in 95. They represented, small schools here in Kansas City well. They represented their conference, KCI well. And the KCI has put a team in the state championship game now in Class 1. I think it's 4 out of 5 years. And with East Buck winning back-to-back, I think Mid-Buck was in there. Maybe it's 4 years in a row. I think it's Mid-Buck and then East Buck for 2 years and then North Platte. So it says a lot about that conference, and congratulations to them. And keep an eye on them. They'll be good. They've got good things going on there and in Class 1. And You know, that conference is good. It's a good place for Class 1 and Class 2 teams.
Yeah. All right, on to the Simones. We were there on a Wednesday. It was on a Wednesday
Yes.
this year due to some other scheduled events at Blue Valley Southwest on Tuesday. But it was cool. I thought it was one of the better Simone Awards. Just, I mean, obviously the venue was amazing. It's a castle down there at Blue Valley Southwest. But they really rolled the red carpet out, literal carpet, there on the gym floor, and it was a good ceremony. Great day for Dylan Dunn, the Simone Award winner, and the other winners as well.
Well, I know some people had joked about Green Valley if he'd wanted it being out in the sticks or something like that. When the speed limit clicked back up to 70 on 69 highway, and I was driving through farmland to get to Blue Valley Southwest, we need to start. Do we need to start thinking about Blue Valley Southwest as a rural school? Because I mean,
no, those aren't farmhouses out there. Okay, go to Zillow and check some of those.
Oh, I know there were some big
tags.
houses I drove by too. On one side was farm, the other side was big houses. But
no, Green Valley used to be the sticks. This is more separated from the city than Green Valley is. Green Valley is swallowed up. Yeah, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, you drive down. You're I-70 or 40 highway. You're 1 minute you're in Blue Springs, next minute you're in Green Valley, and you don't really know the difference. But no, it was a great Dylan Dunn. Great winner, great year. The finalists, Elijah Leonard and Ty Williams and Jay Ross, 4 great players. And, for me, the ceremony's great. And, it's great to hear the message and all that. But for me, it's great to actually kind of get out, and you have a lot of kids that you've covered all year long in the same place. And you
I like to see, they got the face, they got the helmets off, right? And you can talk to them, and it's really, it's
coaches and get to know them and talk to them, and talk to Ty Williams, and
great kid, by the way.
Yes, great kid. And he was saying, we were talking about the Webb City game they lost, and I said, well, you had to give Webb City, some credit. They really tried to take you out of the game, and the guys around you stepped up, played well. And he goes, yeah, I cracked my ribs in the first half, and he goes, and still rushed. And then David Allen goes, and still came back in the game and rushed for 150 yards.
150 more yards. It's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I talked to him as well. I told him, I'm like, look, you could have won this year, any year. You could have won this. You put up video game numbers on the ground. Problem is, Dylan Dunn put up video game numbers through the air.
Yeah.
And so it could have gone, I think, to either one of them. And then obviously Elijah Leonard, Jay Sean Ross, outstanding seasons as well. And for Jay Sean to be on that Final Four list as not a quarterback, right, or running back, says a lot for the type of player he is.
The day he was there a day after meeting some guy named Saban, who was at his school on Tuesday. So
well, they didn't meet technically because this is just the bump period. Saban could be at the school, and if the kid bumps into him, they can have a little chat. So technically, he was not there to see them, but yes, he's on their radar.
I think he was wearing Alabama gloves in the state championship games.
Oh, was he?
What I heard. Yes, those were Alabama gloves. That
I'm telling you, I think Melvin Lasser's committed to another school out west, but Saban wouldn't be wasting his time with 2 offers from athletes for Liberty North.
It's a lot of D1 guys. There's another guy who's going to there's 2 UNLV guys. Keelan Smith's going to Nebraska. We don't know where Jay Ross is going yet, but as you shouldn't be shocked to know there's a few D1 guys on a team that just won the Class 6 Missouri State Championship.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need them, but they certainly help, right? They certainly help when you have those guys, and Andy Learman certainly had them. And so, yeah, it was great to learn about Dylan Dunn's family and meeting him. Very kind of quieter guy, humble guy, and I mean, just what I think. Mertz probably had the best quarterback numbers of any Simone Award winner. I think we've ever.
His was just a little better than Drew's.
He was like 50 touchdowns, I think Mertz was. If Southwest gets to the state championship game, he's going to have 50 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. I mean, probably by halftime.
Yeah,
he would have had that. And so because Mertz got to the state championship game, won it, all right, and so he had 1 extra game. So those were, I mean, quite literally maybe the best numbers we've seen from a high school quarterback in Kansas City history.
Yeah, and Drew only got into the quarterfinals too. So I mean, his numbers were not
Drew Lock.
Yeah. And that was his senior year was the quarterfinal. They got blitzed by Blue Springs. It was 20. Yeah. That was the game that No, that was his junior year, I think. Maybe it was his junior year that got blitzed. That was his junior year. He got blitzed by Blue Springs. And the senior year is more of a back and forth game. But the junior year is the one where Dallin Warmack was on that team. And one of those fun things in high school, this was great memories, that in high school sports, when there's a penalty on the offense, it doesn't, you don't, like the quarter has ended. You don't just go over to the next quarter. You still play an untimed down if it happens at the end of the quarter.
We had one of those in the state championship game. I didn't know that rule.
Yes.
I
So
don't agree with it.
they had
I
like a
don't know.
9-yard run. Blue Springs had a 9-yard run. They got called for holding and backed them up to like the 43-yard line. And they ran an untimed down. And so Dalvin Warmack then broke off a 43-yard touchdown run with no time on the clock to go up like 28-0 at the end of the first quarter. And Sam McDowell and I were standing there and he goes, that untimed down didn't really help Lee Summit there. I was like, no. So no, it was a great award season, and the Lifetime Achievement Award went to Dave Stewart. And good guy. We don't, you worked with him for a long time. I've known him for a long time and done some work with him. And he's kind of one of the, when it comes to high school sports, you and I kind of walk in his shadow among a few others. And that's definitely
because he lived it. He was a heck of an athlete at Shawnee Mission South. And played football at Kansas State. People don't know this, right?
I thought he played baseball at Kansas State.
What's that?
I thought he played baseball at Kansas State.
I played football. I know.
You played football? I thought he played baseball too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Walms and I were talking
about both, but I know he played football.
When we did our show, Coach Walms was saying he's a great guy except for the fact that he went to Shawnee Mission South.
Yeah.
Coach Walms, who coached against him.
Now he's he had the Simone's, obviously. When you think about the Simone Awards, and then right below that, you think about Dave Stewart because he's been the guy hosting those for so many years.
Yeah.
He's the guy that, there's so many moving parts, right? There's so many schools and coaches and athletes and alumni coming back and Chiefs and former Chiefs that are there. There's a speaker who maybe can, maybe can't make it. We don't know till that morning. And so for him to corral all that is a big effort. A big effort. And
the only other award that was not known going in was the Chiefs Coach of the Year. It was Jesse Owen from Gardner Edgerton, and he beat out Kelly Donahoe. And it's all the coaches of the week are up, and then the final we named the final four, and it was Kelly Donahoe from Rockhurst, William Harris from Raytown South, and of course Anthony York from Blue Valley Southwest. And when I informed one Kelly Donahoe that he was a finalist, he asked me if we had run out of candidates. Since he was the grizzled veteran that is now Kelly Donahoe and his 25 years of coaching now. And because people don't remember, he was like 3 years at Raytown South before he went to Blue Springs. And David Allows tells a story that the coach that was at Blue Springs before him was walking around telling people they weren't going to be very good the next year. So Kelly, Raytown South, is like, hey, David, we got to schedule Blue Springs. We can get them because Raytown South was good. He got them good really, really fast. And so then about 4 weeks later, the Blue Springs coach quits. Kelly's hired at Blue Springs. David Alley gets the Raytown South job. And he goes, so then in week one, I'm standing across the sideline looking at Kelly and he crushes us. He goes, so I was not the beneficiary of scheduling Blue Springs like we thought it was going to be. So Kelly, good to see those guys.
Money awards too, and just hanging out with each other and trading world stories, and it's good to see.
Yeah, got to see Greg Oder. It was funny standing there with Kelly and Greg, and I was like, we're way out in Kansas when we used to be standing in Blue Springs talking like this. They're like, I know. Yeah. No, a lot of good coaches, and it's fun. It's like I said, it's great to be able to meet the kids and the parents. Shout out to Melvin Laster's dad. We know he's a big fan of the podcast. I want to give him a shout out. He's one of the ones
that's for watching and listening.
Yes,
sir.
Yes, he wants us to keep going. So he's one of those people, and you had people come up to you and say that as well. So it's.
I think you paid them $5.
I did not pay anyone anything. I have not. Mackenzie may have said something to you on her at my behest, but she's. I think she's as to being bugging you about things as much as actually, whether or not she actually listens every week. But no, it's a great way to wrap up the season. And it's anybody who was on the ballot should feel honored to be a part of that. And there's even more that were discussed. We had as many nominations as we've ever had. So there was, and I think the depth of the players we're getting better at that. So you're always trying to find those guys, and there's a lot of good players out there, and a lot of juniors. We had a sophomore win the Fontana. You had Ashton Moore as a junior at Lewisburg, was a finalist for the Bell. A guy like Braden Bush, who won the Bell this year, was a junior, semifinal, or was a finalist last year. And so he's an impressive guy, wrestler. One of the tougher guys in there. And then you get a guy like Alex Parks, who had the best jacket in the place, in his green velvet jacket.
Crazy. His brothers, who are 18 and 20 years older than him, were standouts in the late 18 and 20 years ago. It's crazy. The baby of the family. Got to know them a little bit as well. It's a great event. One I'm very passionate about, and it was good to see it go off so well this year. I was talking to somebody. All right, so roughly how many schools are in the area, Dion, that
I cover about 120.
qualify for the Simone Award?
I cover about 120. The Coach Association is about 110 school, 100, right around 100. I cover because if you play in a conference that has a coach in the association, I generally cover you.
How many kids on average are there on those teams? I mean, you have some with 150 kids on the team. You have some with 50.
I'd say on average, there's 60 players on every team in the city.
60? Okay.
Yeah, I think roughly. I think that's a ballpark. I mean, you're going to go to class 3 and it's going to be 60 is a good number, but you go to class 1 and they'll have 30. But there's more. I think
I would almost do 80 because there's way more big schools in that 120 than there are small, right?
Oh yeah, maybe.
Let's do 120. Quick math here, times 80 on average. There's almost 10,000 players. In the metro area. So if you're in the top 10 of anything, you're a champion already. You're already elite. So that's why I tell these kids all the time. I mean, it's an honor to be invited to this thing and stand up and hear your name called and get to put on a tie for like the first time all year and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because what I've noticed over time, the kids dressing up has always been a fun thing, because I think in the last 13, 14 years, some kids are really trying to bring their style.
Yeah.
And there was we always, 10 years ago, the style was, nice suit and some, kind of cool dress shoes and things like that. We've all become Jordan people now. How many coaches were wearing Jordans? I was wearing Jordans. I mean, it's funny to see that it's the tennis shoe game that is up there. I'm shocked McKenzie, the owner of 12 or 13 pairs of Jordans, didn't wear Jordans.
I would say take that number times about 5. She's over 50, I think.
She's over 50? Jeez.
Yeah.
That's where all her money goes, evidently.
Yeah, that's it apparently.
Yeah. So no, it's a great event. It's fun, and we enjoy it, and glad to be a part of it. So no, the one thing I will do this, I'll leave you with one thing I learned last night. Did you watch the George Brett documentary?
No, I need to.
You need to. I'm not going to ruin anything for you here.
I got an email to me beforehand. I just haven't done it.
I watched it last night. It's very good. It's 2 hours long, which going into it, I thought it was an hour long. And living in Kansas City and being a Royals fan, as I am, a season ticket holder, and being George Brett is my favorite player, you kind of go into it. It's kind of like a new documentary on Hitler. What are we really going to learn? Not they're two different guys, but there's a lot of things. George Brett has been in this town for 50 years. And so what are we going to learn? What are we going to learn about it? I know his kids' names. I mean, it's not, I've covered his kids. So it's not like, and there's things that you learn, and it's very well done. And the one thing that I learned as he was talking about winning the World Series in 1985, and he said, it's for everybody. It's for the owners, the manager, the front office, the players, down to the equipment manager. And he said his name. I don't really remember that name. Down to the Joe Coronia who shines the shoes. And I said, Joe Coronia? There's a Joe Coronia who does work for Preps KC. So I texted one Joe Coronia who does work for Preps KC last night. And I said, hey, George Brett just dropped your name here. The only 2 names he dropped were you and the equipment manager when talking about people in the organization. And he goes, yeah, I was a clubby from 84 to 95.
No way. That's great.
And he's like, he goes, yeah, I got to know him real well. Great guy, And so then I was like, he goes, I'm going to watch it tomorrow. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I ruined it for you. He goes, no, you're like the 5th person to text me tonight. So that's kind of my segue to all the people who did work for Preps KC, and really everybody at 41 that we worked with this year. It's fun. We get to do a lot of fun things, but there's a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work, and nobody's getting rich over here at Preps KC. We do it for love. There's money made. Nobody's doing it for free, but this isn't a $1 million job going out and shooting video on a cold Friday night. And, doing, as we found out over the years, phones don't do well sometimes in the cold, and it drains your battery. And so sometimes guys getting, we don't, our guys don't have the big, nice cameras like you do sometimes, but we don't get some second half video because it gets cold or we don't get it sit. But everyone and I've got a column I'm gonna put up and thanking everyone, but this was a great year. And I feel like it's our best year we've ever had. I feel like it's the best work we've ever put in. And with some new guys who come along, and with a guy like Joe, who just called me up and asked me about doing it 10, 12 years ago. And who's a guy who is not a natural writer, is not a natural guy who shoots videos, I don't think he's naturally a guy who interviews people. And in this time, he is a writer. He does video. He does great interviews after the game with the video now, and shoots great video. And that's what is great, that the guy who loves high school football can come out and do that. And really, those are the guys that people see out there. And so he's getting a shout out from me today, and everybody else, like some of the guys that, Cole gets a shout out because he's kind of like the third Beatle with Preps KC. He's done a lot of stuff with us, but Clayton Jones, Andy Meyer, and I'm trying to go through Ryan Edwards, Ryan Wallace does some stuff with us, Dave McQueen, Toriano Porter, Nick Smith, Justin Floor, Nick Puno, Roma Puno, Riley McCabe, Riley Stapleton. Go through all my photographers, and then we get people like Todd and Lori Havager who give us some photos. So I mean, there's a lot of people, and if I've left anybody's name off, I should just go through my invoice set and read that off. That's probably the easiest way. I want to thank them, and as we wrap up this season, and it's been a great year, and the work you guys do, and when you guys go out and shoot, and Nick, and we do Under the Lights and all that stuff, and it's fun, and it's so I tell people all the time, it's better than working for a living. I mean, we get paid to talk about high school football and do things. And yes, Friday into Saturday night is late for me. It's 3 or 4 in the morning, but it's fun. It's great to do.
Yeah, don't mention my name. I've got Fridays off. I'm just out there.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do here in a couple years? They don't play volleyball on Fridays. They don't play
one
volleyball.
more year left. My kids, unless my daughter wants to play. So yeah.
Volleyball's Tuesdays and Thursdays, I think, usually, isn't it?
What's that?
Is she still volleyballing?
Yeah. No, I'm saying if she wants to play football.
Yeah, I was gonna say your Friday nights are gonna be wide open. Are you gonna come back out there and take Friday nights, take another night off during the week?
I'll string for Preps KC.
only at Mill Valley games.
Only Mill Valley, yeah. All right, but yeah, hey, 5 champions from the metro area.
Great
right?
year. 3
on the Kansas side, 2 on the Missouri side. So that's a good year.
Hey, when you can go out of the big classes, 4, 5, and 6 on each side, you can go 5 out of 6. It's pretty good.
A good point, yeah.
Yeah,
because that's the bulk of the teams are 4, 5, and 6 on both sides. We have
a few
3, 2, and 1 in Missouri. We got a couple 3 A's and 2
Baldwin
A's
and Bishop Ward on Kansas side, yeah.
But for the most part, most of them are 4, 5, and 6. And yeah, you're right, 5 out of 6 there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And it's that's it's always I was in 15, 4, 5, and 6 went to Kansas City in pretty good fashion with Blue Spring South beating CBC and Fort Osage beating Chaminade and Kearney beating Webb City. Those were some fun ones, and this year was pretty good too. I mean, it was fun there, and I think on the other side, saw Randy Dryling. I told him congratulations, it's a good job, and he goes, I didn't do anything. He's enjoying that. I would bet with the temperatures today, he's on a golf course, is what I would expect. The last couple of days with the warm weather, but no, we fans, we're hoping to do this every other week. I'll let you know from the Twitter where we stand on that. We did a poll last year, and poll came back yes. So we'll see. We'll see what Mick's currently back from death's door, so we'll see how he comes out of this sickness that he's been. And we'll give him a couple weeks off. So
Thanksgiving, state football every year, sickness. I guess I'll take it. Yeah, getting better. So all right, that'll do it. We'll see you next time. Probably sooner than later. We'll see here on Snap Tackle Pod. But for Dion and Mick, thanks for watching this season.